The chair is very pleased to welcome to the convention the Honorable Valerie Stanfill, Chief Justice of the Maine Supreme Judicial Court, accompanied by the Honorable Janet T. Mills, Governor of the State of Maine. The chair is pleased to recognize in the gallery the following members and guests of the Judicial Branch: Chief Justice Robert Mullen, Maine Superior Court; Chief Judge Brent Davis, Maine District Court; Deputy Chief Judge Eric Walker, Maine District Court; Amy Quinlan, State Court Administrator; and Barbara Cardone, Director of Legal Affairs and Public Relations. Would they please rise and accept the greetings of the convention? The chair would request that the Honorable Valerie Stanfill, Chief Justice of the Maine Supreme Judicial Court, please step forward and address the joint convention.
Good morning. Governor Mills, President Daughtry, Speaker Fecteau, distinguished members and guests of the 132nd Maine Legislature and people of the state of Maine, I am very pleased to be here this morning to be able to report to you on the state of the judiciary in Maine. I know you know that the judicial branch is a separate and co-equal branch of Maine government. But unless you're involved in Judiciary Committee or in AFA, for example, you may not completely appreciate what it means on a day-to-day basis. So obviously, we are partnered with the other branches on many things. But we operate and manage our own buildings. We negotiate and contract separately with employee unions. We have separate departments for HR, for IT, and the like. And I say that as a preface to thanking the members of the judicial branch who have accompanied me here today and those who are not here today. They really support me every day and are critical to the success of the Maine Judicial Branch. As you've already been introduced, some of our administrative team who are present here today include State Court Administrator Amy Quinlan, and she's the non-judicial head of the judicial branch. She's in charge of all aspects of management, and I am very grateful for that wonderful partnership. I couldn't do it without her. And she's accompanied as well by a couple people who didn't get introduced: Tom Hill, who's our Chief of Finance and Administration, and our new Chief Information Officer, Chris Oberg. And of course, Barbara Cardone, you know, our Director of Legal Affairs, and I'm sure you all know Legislative Analyst Julie Finn, who's here today. So to my left are the justices of the Supreme Judicial Court, and so they comprise not only one of the most collegial courts to be found anywhere in this country, and I know because I talk to other chiefs. Believe me, they don't have the same luxury I have of having such a wonderfully collegial court. But they also work like a board of governors in the operation of the branch. And so you've been introduced to them. It was sort of in reverse order from where they came in. We can never seem to get that straight, whether we go from most junior to most senior or senior to junior. But I'm going to do it in the correct order, from senior to junior. We have Justice Mead, Catherine Connors, Rick Lawrence, Wayne Douglas, and Julia Lopez here today. And the chiefs of the trial courts, who you've also already been introduced to, in addition to being sitting judges, They also operate like the executive committee of the organization in conjunction with me and Amy Quinlan, and are responsible for many of our day-to-day operations. So I wish I could name and personally thank every single member of the judicial branch, judges and staff alike, for their dedication to the people of this state every day. There really is no better group of people. They are working incredibly hard these days, and I am so grateful to all of them. As is, yes. As is the tradition for the State of the Judiciary address, though, I'm going to highlight both where we've been and where we're going. I would say, in short, progress. Since I became Chief Justice, I focused on the importance of ensuring that the Maine Judicial Branch has adequate resources to fulfill our mission of providing fair and timely access to justice to all. Our ability to do that really rests on three key components: sufficient staffing, and that means both staff and judges, reliable and secure technology infrastructure, which is critical these days, as well as safe and accessible courthouses. And as I say, we are making progress in all of these areas. Staffing. We have been understaffed, the Maine Judicial Branch. I know you've all heard that from me, and you've heard it from me and my predecessors, but we really have operated very lean and been understaffed for years. That's not going to change overnight. We're not asking it to change overnight. Some of you may recall that a few years ago, the National Center for State Courts, in fact, conducted a study of our staffing, and among other things observed that we really needed an additional 54 court clerk positions alone in order to process the cases that we have. And it really is on the behind-the-scenes staffing that we are so lean compared to other states. It's always hard to compare state to state because what's within the judicial branch or not is different from state to state, but I promise you, we are small and mighty. In any event, you've been working with us to increase those positions, and we are grateful for that. For some years, we have, as many organizations have, struggled to attract and hire people into some of the positions, particularly marshals. Last year, in fact, you agreed to help reclassify those positions, and I'm pleased to report it really has helped in both hiring and retention. So overall, we do have fewer vacant positions in those positions than we've had in the past. So again, I'm grateful. In short, we've made strides on the staffing front together, and we still have a way to go, but we have made strides. It is progress. Now, if we could only do something about judicial salaries, which are 51st in the country, just have to throw that out there, that we are bottom. But moving on, I guess that's for another legislature. Moving on, technology. The judicial branch has been turning to technology really with unprecedented speed in the last several years to efficiently manage our increasingly complex caseloads. I think many of you are aware, it's not that the numbers, except for in the Supreme Judicial Court, the numbers elsewhere are not necessarily going up, but the cases are increasingly complex. Technological solutions and tools are used really every day to create the court record, to provide remote access to proceedings, to enable video interpreting with all the different interpreters that we need, some of whom we don't even have necessarily that language here in the state of Maine, to support scheduling, payment of mediators, and of course by attorneys and litigants every day in the courtroom to present their cases and evidence. I don't think we get cases these days that don't have electronic evidence, even if it's just those text messages on the phone. So we're always looking at tools, including, frankly, AI. We're trying to figure out what to do there to expand access to justice. You may recall that in last year's biennial budget, we asked for and received some funds for updating and maintaining the technology infrastructure. So I thought I'd let you know that as a result, we have been updating the Zoom carts, which literally were carts with TV screens on them that we cobbled together during the pandemic, and replacing them with modern neat bar technology that brings better audio and video communication into the courts, especially for hybrid and remote proceedings, which are so common every day in our courthouses. We're also in the process of updating the hardware and the software for the courtroom recording technology, which frankly was broken in a lot of our courtrooms. used for the recording the official court records and transcripts. It's known as For the Record. The updated version of For the Record is being installed in courtrooms throughout the state over this biennium, and we've made great progress on that as well. Most exciting of all, in 2025, we accelerated our installation and rollout of Maine e-courts and e-filing for all case types. When I was here last year, we had not yet implemented e-filing and e-courts in criminal cases, for example. And in June, we launched Maine e-courts for criminal and juvenile cases in the Androscoggin Superior and Lewiston District Courts. They were our guinea pigs. We have an incredible group down there, and they were wonderful in working through a lot of the issues. This was the first rollout that we had of criminal and juvenile cases. Those cases require, of course, close coordination and collaboration, not only with the Maine Attorney General, the district attorneys, public defenders, and private attorneys. It's a huge volume of cases to enable a smooth transition, from conventional filing to e-filing. But also the Department of Public Safety is a key partner in that, as integrations for the Metro switch maintained by DPS are critical for things like warrants and bail, which have to update immediately and be accurate. After we smoothed out a few of the bumps down there, we followed up in September with the installation of Maine e-courts for criminal and juvenile matters in the rest of Region 3, which is Rumford, Farmington, and the South Paris courts. So those 5 courts in Region 3 are now using Maine e-courts for all case types. Then, on February 2nd, so technically not 2025, but just last week, we went live for all case types in Region 4, which is Augusta, Waterville, and Skowhegan courts. That was the first time we sort of did everything everywhere all at once, so we weren't too sure how it was going to go. And I think it's gone really pretty smoothly, considering. There are going to be bumps, of course, along the way, but it works, is what I'm really saying. Our goal is to continue with rollouts approximately every 2 months for the rest of the year. Region 1, which is the York Judicial Center, is scheduled for March 30th. So this schedule hopefully is going to allow us to deploy Maine e-courts within the next year throughout the state, so that all trial courts will be digital for all case types by the time I come back here next year, finally. Yeah. A couple years ago, I think I explained that implementation of Maine e-courts required switching every desk in every courthouse from Apple computers to PCs. We were the only judicial branch in the country that worked on Apple. Yeah. So I think that's just sort of, I raise that because I think it's emblematic of all the little hidden myriad challenges involved and why it's taking us so long to get to where we are and why it feels so good to be where we are now. As we go around the state, we have to assess each facility, for example, to make sure it will support the new technology. So a couple of examples to give you an idea of what I mean. Waterville District Court, we had to completely rewire it in order to put in the system. That's the leased facility, and we have a landlord that worked really well with us, but we had to completely rewire it. Holton, beautiful historic courthouse, has a nice wooden, like here, right? A beautiful wooden bench. And a clerk's bench in front of it. But they are old-fashioned writing desks with a slanted surface, antique. You can't put computers on those. We need to have the screens, the monitors, et cetera. So we basically, we'll leave them looking beautiful from everywhere else, but inside we have to rebuild those, essentially, in order to install the technology. So that's just an idea of the little challenges that are involved in doing this. It's not like just flipping a switch, right, on a computer server. So you get the idea. So there have been bumps, but each rollout has been better, and there are improvements that will be made. But we did it, and we're going to continue to do it this year. And some of the things that we think we could improve are, frankly, we want to wait until we just get it installed everywhere so that we can then work on updating, improving, et cetera. I want to say these rollouts were the biggest ask so far of the branch and of court users. And I really, again, need to thank all of those involved, from information technology to court operations to clerks to judges to facilities, communications, process specialists. It's really an all-hands-on-deck effort for the judicial branch, and those hands have been nothing short of heroic in this last year. And let me just say, I think it is paying off. I've been able to say that to you, and also a few weeks ago I addressed the annual meeting of the State Bar Association, and I asked for questions. I didn't get any, but I got one comment, and the comment was, thank you for bringing Maine courts into the 21st century. So we're doing it. So while it takes a village, I do want to pause to recognize the leader of our Maine courts effort who's here today. I said at the outset that Chris Oberg is our new Chief Information Officer. Dave Packard, who had been with us for many years, retired last week. Sad to see him go. Chris was hired from within the judicial branch, and he has been the guy. He has been managing the Maine eCourts implementation from the start. So it's only fair that I give a shout out to Chris Oberg, who's been working tirelessly to ensure the success of the project. And Chris, I'm hoping you'll stand and take the recognition from the whole convention. I know you're here somewhere. So thank you. And I just also want to mention that in addition to a modern case management system and e-filing, those are the most obvious, but it's really a whole suite of products. And so we've also implemented a new electronic payment site, defendant access, in the court locations with Maine eCourts. And Representative Moonen, I know this, where are you? This is so near and dear. He knows this is coming, but we implemented a program to deliver hearing reminders by text message for criminal defendants who have a cell number on file with the court. So defendants are now texted 3 days in advance of their upcoming hearing dates, with the goal of course, trying to reduce failures to appear in our court system. Courthouses. 2025 was both an exciting year and a challenging year for our courthouses. And by that, I really mean literally the buildings. With your permission and the full support of the local bar, we closed the district court courthouse in Madawaska. Most of the towns served in that district now go to Fort Kent. The remainder go to Caribou. It was a leased facility that was only open 2 days a month. And so it felt like we weren't getting, a lot of juice for the squeeze, I don't know. It was staffed by the Fort Kent clerks, and in fact, Fort Kent had to close on the days Madawaska was open. So we don't consider courthouse closures lightly, but this one seemed to make sense to, frankly, everyone involved, including the bar and the local courts, et cetera. Challenges we faced this year included the discovery of mold in the basement of the Lincoln District Court, which had to be closed for cleaning for a period of time. I think it was some weeks. It wasn't a hugely long period of time. During that period, Lincoln's cases were temporarily heard instead in Millinocket. And interestingly, like Fort Kent and Madawaska, Lincoln and Millinocket are sort of our other pair, if you will, where each is closed when the other is open. And it's the same clerks go back and forth between the facilities. So I think the disruption was, minimal, and both are now fully open. Big challenge posed by Newport District Court, and I see you over there. We discovered extensive mold in that leased building, and that led to its closure in early spring. All Newport operations have been relocated to Bangor since then. Our efforts at working with the landlord there to resolve the issues have not been successful to date, and in fact, this last fall we put out a call for proposals to move the location of the court. That would be very expensive. To be clear, it has not been our intent to permanently close the Newport courthouse, but the cost involved in getting a new facility up and running is significant. We understand the importance of providing convenient access to court facilities in this state, particularly in rural communities. But we also understand that resources are limited, and so whether we continue to have a court location in Newport really is at least somewhat dependent on your will, given the significant cost involved. And we, like I say, we don't have any intention to close it, but we also understand that there is a significant cost to get a new facility up and running. This is what happens with aging facilities, right, across the state, and I know we're not alone in dealing with that, but that's one of the problems. There's also exciting news on the building front. Intensive planning is ongoing for the 3 new courthouse facilities to be funded by the bonds that were authorized by the legislature in 2024 and issued last summer. Each project will consolidate court services into modern, safe judicial centers supporting the operations of both Superior Court and District Court in one location. The Hancock Judicial Center is a new courthouse construction project. We originally would have really liked to have updated the existing facility, but it really just can't be done. So with the assistance of the City of Ellsworth, we've now obtained a site off of High Street behind the Yellow, those of you familiar, behind the Yellow Bean Outlet and Merrill Furniture. North Peak Architecture of Lyman, Maine, has been selected as the architect for the project, and they've done some of our other courthouses and done a wonderful job. The City of Ellsworth has completed the access road to the new site, and we expect to break ground in the spring. Maybe summer, but in the upcoming spring. Next, we are also building an addition to the Skowhegan District Court in Skowhegan. That will also consolidate operations and courtrooms for both trial courts into a Somerset County Judicial Center. Currently, the District Court and the Superior Court are sort of across the street from each other. Upon completion, we'll end up vacating the county building across the street. WBRC Architects of Bangor and Portland has been selected as the architect for the project, and we hope to begin construction on that project in the fall of 2026, so a little after the other one. Finally, we also have hired Harriman of Auburn as the architect for the new Androscoggin Judicial Center in Lewiston. This will be an addition onto the existing Lewiston District Court in downtown Lewiston. We were able to acquire the adjacent building, the old Depositors Trust Key Bank building. And so it, again, will consolidate the trial courts. Currently, they are in Auburn and Lewiston, and the files go back and forth across the river. So it will be able to consolidate into one building. And it is the most complicated build because of being downtown and trying to connect 2 old buildings, et cetera. But it will be a challenge. But we hope to begin construction on that facility in 2027. So as with Somerset, that also means we'll be vacating the county building in Auburn when the new one is complete. As an aside, abandoning, I have to say, the old historic courtrooms makes me sad, and I know it makes the governor sad too. We have tried to avoid it where we can, and we were able to keep the old courtrooms, for example, in South Paris and in Augusta, and add on and keep these glorious old courtrooms. And I have to say, leaving Auburn particularly saddens me, as I know it does the governor, because I spent much of my career in that courthouse. However, the reality is that most of the county facilities across the state are aging and aging and aging and simply cannot support more modern and safe court operations. A few other updates. The backlog continues to improve, although slowly on the criminal side. The civil backlog is about returned to pre-pandemic levels. I think we're caught up pretty much on civil. It always goes back and forth, but I think we're pretty much caught up on civil. Many of the family cases are still significantly delayed, although again, I think we've made progress since I was here last year, but we continue to work on that. Last year, I had reported that I actually looked back to see what I told you, to make sure. Last year, I reported that the criminal caseload was running about 35% higher than pre-pandemic levels, about half what it was at the height of the pandemic, but nonetheless still about 35% higher. Now, a year later, the criminal caseload is running more like 25 to 30%. So again, it's a little reduced, but still above pre-pandemic levels. So it's an improvement, but we still have a long way to go. I think we told you years ago it was going to take us time to catch up, and it is, but at least it's moving in the right direction. To that end, we are also taking a hard look on how we process criminal cases to see where we can be more efficient. Delays in criminal cases really hurt everyone involved. We have victims, we have defendants, more work when every time something gets rescheduled, all the things. The average age of our criminal cases is really simply too old. To that end, as a first step, last spring we hosted a New England Regional Conference on Criminal Case Processing funded by the MacArthur Foundation. Amy Quinlan will tell you that when they sent a call out to the New England states, it took me about a hot 2 seconds to say, we'll do it. Because I am concerned about how we process criminal cases in this state. On January 1st, we started a pilot project in the Bangor criminal dockets to try to put some of the ideas to work. And so it's a different process being applied to cases as they come in Bangor. And we'll be evaluating whether those processes, we actually worked with our data people to make sure that it would be trackable, if you will. And so we'll evaluate, see if it helps, if they're effective, and that will help inform what changes we may incorporate statewide to increase efficiency of our criminal case processing. On a related note, I am pleased to report, and I know you've probably heard this from other organizations as well, progress has been made in the last year in cases constitutionally requiring appointed counsel. Again, when I was here a year ago, I told you there were about 1,150 matters pending without counsel at the end of 2025, including 998, just almost 1,000 criminal cases, post-conviction review juvenile matters, another 112 child protective, 40 appeals. That's where we were December 30th a year ago. Those numbers are improved, but they haven't disappeared. We have about 225. It fluctuates day to day, so giving numbers is a little tricky. But about 225 criminal cases, 30 child protective cases, and 30 appeals at any given time pending, which we have unable to appoint counsel in a timely fashion. So while the total number of cases lacking counsel is significantly reduced, it's still unacceptably high. There shouldn't be any. This shouldn't be a statistic that we're tracking at all. No one should be having to wait for an attorney appointed to represent them in cases in which there are significant rights and liberty interests at stake. Every case matters. And so everything we can do for every case is important. This is something we all need to continue to work on, all of the stakeholders involved in this. Our school outreach is ongoing, and we're trying to increase it a bit. As we have for many years, we heard oral arguments in 3 high schools. It's so much fun to do this. I love it. In October, we were at Upper Kennebec Valley High School in Bingham, Oak Hill High School in Wales, and Falmouth High School in Falmouth. I will say the contrast, I've spent a lot of time actually in the Upper Kennebec Valley, but the contrast between the high school in Bingham and the high school in Falmouth was pretty significant. It was interesting. Just the facilities, I mean, is so different. In any event, in addition, we've had students from around the state visiting courts to watch trial court proceedings, tour a courthouse, visit with a judge or justice about how a court docket is administered. Justice Mead was involved in a really big program up in Penobscot, and attend programs, about the various career opportunities within the state court system. So I'm really hoping to continue to increase some school outreach. Together with the federal courts, we're actually planning 2 events to commemorate the 250th anniversary of this country, the semi-quincentennial. First, to recognize Law Day on May 1st, we're going to do a joint presentation in the Supreme Judicial Courtroom in Portland. Maybe some of you will come. But also, we're going to try to plan a bigger event. We have just started, so we're still in what we call the spitballing stage. But for the fall, in which we hope to host an event which schools would be able to participate in remotely, and so that we can really reach out to a lot of different people. So no details yet. As I say, we're just beginning the planning, but that's what we hope to do this fall. So I'm excited to increase community engagement. The judicial branch is usually the least seen by the public, unless they actually have to go to court. of all of the branches of government. And I think these efforts are particularly important in our current public climate. I worry that in these times of increasing partisanship and polarization, that we're losing track of what unites us in these United States. I've said before that public trust and confidence in our public institutions, including the justice system, is historically low. And as that trust decreases, attacks on judges, both in word and in deed, have increased. We shouldn't tolerate this. Judicial independence is one of the cornerstones of the rule of law in this country. Disagreement with judicial interpretation cannot result in threatening judges for simply doing their work. I know you understand this too, because disagreements should also not result in threats to legislators either. And this is something we're seeing across the country. This past summer in Maine, I was honored to host the national gathering of Chief Justices and State Court Administrators from across the country, sponsored by the National Center for State Courts. You will be happy to hear that everyone fell in love with Maine and all we have to offer. I was getting texts saying, "Oh my God, you have such a beautiful state." It was really a resounding success. I was privileged, though, at that conference to be able to introduce Chief Justice John Roberts of the United States Supreme Court to address the chiefs from across the country. I'm going to quote him. "Judicial rulings can provoke strong and passionate reactions, and those expressions of public sentiment, whether criticism or praise, are not threats to judicial independence. To the contrary, public engagement with the work of the courts results in a better informed polity and a more robust democracy. Unfortunately, there are 4 areas of illegitimate activity that do threaten the independence of judges on which the rule of law depends: violence, intimidation, disinformation, and threats to defy lawfully entered judgments." So those were the words of Chief Justice Roberts. So I worry that even here in Maine, those areas of illegitimate activity are on the rise. We have judges getting increasing threats. I fear that divisive partisanship will infect civil discourse and consideration of even issues that should unite us, that are not partisan at all. I note that on the national level, the press likes to identify judges, federal judges, this is always, who, by the way, only hear 2 to 3% of the cases in this country. 97, 98% of cases are heard by state court judges. Think about that. They tend to be identified as conservative or liberal, right? A Trump judge or an Obama judge. We don't do that here, and nor should we. Maine has historically been nonpartisan in the confirmation of state judges. If we were to identify Maine judges by the governor who appoints them, then let me just say that in this very room, we have McKernan judges, King judges, Baldacci judges, and LePage judges. And every single one of us were reappointed by every governor along the way of each party, including Governor Mills. Those labels you see are meaningless. They must remain so. We are simply judges, doing our best to faithfully, impartially, and independently administer justice in this state. Let me wrap up by saying it is indeed a pleasure to be able to address this joint convention, particularly in this short session. I know time is dear and that you have a lot of pressing matters. However, the primary importance of the Chief Justice's annual address lies not in the content alone, but in the pause we take to recognize and celebrate the American experiment of Republican government, a pause that's never been so important as it is today. There are 3 co-equal branches of government, and the only times, although there's a statute that says we're supposed to do it other times, but the only times the 3 branches of Maine's government reliably come together, quite literally in the same room, are for the annual addresses of the governor and the annual address of the Chief Justice to the joint convention. That we all come together here despite our differences is one of the most potent symbols we can offer to the citizens of the state of Maine. When lawyers are admitted to the bar of this state, when you're sworn in as legislators or as governor, when judges are sworn in to judicial office, we all take an oath. We swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state. That promise is the promise of the rule of law in this country, that all people and institutions are accountable under laws that are publicly promulgated by the legislature, equally enforced by the executive, and independently adjudicated by the judiciary. Our oaths bind all of us together in service to the citizens of this state. Public trust in our justice system, and indeed in all government institutions, is rarely dismantled in one fell swoop. It can erode, a death by 1,000 cuts. We, all of us, need to guard against those cuts on a daily basis. We do so by upholding the rule of law, by supporting the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, as we have all sworn to do. Thank you for your time this morning.
The purpose for which the convention was assembled having been accomplished, I now declare the same dissolved.
Thank you, Brian, right? Not much to say about that.